I'm not happy.
I don't need Elizabeth Warren or the government giving away my money.
Calling Mike Bloomberg an oligarch has implications in this country that I think are unfair and unreasonable.
I care. That's it.
Makes you think of some rich person who got their money off of oil in Russia, who's taking advantage of a broken and dysfunctional system.
Bernie Sanders saying, the country's corrupt, our system's corrupt. Be careful about that language, Bernie. You know, be careful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
How you like that, boy?
Oh, no.
We fucking nailed him!
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation right here, Waldorf Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Hey TGIF, it's Friday. Yay. It's Friday. Don't worry, we got stories, we got depressing, we got fun. That's normally the usual mix. And yeah. We're going to talk about, of course, Nancy Pelosi, student loans, Democrats, of course, failing again to not be corrupt, as usual. All the details on that. We also are going to talk about, of course, labor, involving, of course, the Activision Blizzard and what's going on there. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening at Activision Blizzard. That is important for a couple of reasons. For one, of course, you have the sexual harassment lawsuit and, of course, the treatment of women in gaming and, of course, the frat boy culture. And then, of course, you have, as well, labor. And so those are two things that are really, really important. I don't see a lot of other, mainstream, I should say, outlets or even independent media outlets talking about the labor implications, of course, of what's going on here and how good it would be to see one of these large Silicon Valley companies, Activision Blizzard, take the steps toward getting a unionizing. That would be huge, incredibly huge. And so we're going to talk about that. But first, we're also going to talk about Mike Pillow, of course. We got a Mike Pillow segment. You all love that. We've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, and some of her comments about shooting people. Now, that's great. We've got, we also have a new Karen. Yep. We got a Karen screaming about, of course, masks, as usual. So let's do that. Yang Ye, I don't know who Yang Ye is, Mithril, so I'm unfamiliar with that character, with that creator. Sorry, character. So like I said, a lot of at least I'm not familiar with like the mainstream. So what I understand is that there's like people who talk about gaming news on YouTube, and then there's people who talk about political stuff. Well, I do political stuff, but I'm also talking about the gaming news because I think it's really, really important because it has wider implications, not just on, of course, the gaming community, but of course you're talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. I think it's a really important discussion, a really important thing to bring attention to, as well as, of course, unionization. Activision ruined Call of Duty as well. Oh, they ruined a lot of things. By the way, Activision Blizzard, and this is something that I'll probably forget in my reporting later, but now that it's on my mind, because I didn't include it in the segment, but now investors, as a result of the sexual harassment lawsuit brought by the state of California, you have investors that are also suing Activision Blizzard because, well, we weren't aware that there were such terrible things that were happening at Activision Blizzard. We all know it's because of the negative PR it brought in the company, so that's why they're divesting. And so that's one of those things. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Really important stuff. But first, we have other important things. We're going to start out with Nancy Pelosi. Because, of course. And political corruption. So this story is actually brought forward by The Intercept, Ken Klippenstein and Brian Grimm. Wonderful, wonderful reporting. So I'm going to get into this one. All right. Last week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi stunned everybody with her brain-dead take on student loan cancellation. If you can recall, she told reporters, oh, the Biden administration, oh, no, they don't have the authority to cancel student loans. In fact, here she is.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. And I don't even like to call it forgiveness because that implies a transgression. It's not to be forgiven. Just freeing people from those obligations. So the question of who gets forgiven, to use the term of art that is out there, is a debate. Do we use whatever money there is for the broadest base of support of those with more people with even less debt or fewer people with more debt? That's a policy discussion. But the difference between the president can't do it. So that's not even a discussion. Not everybody realizes that.
So now, of course, that was, and I remember making the remarks like, why does she sound like she's confused? Well, it turns out there is a pretty good reason, and it's not because she's confused, it's because she's paid to give that nonsense answer. Big shocker. So, like I said, after that happened, experts weighed in, other Democrats, progressives, of course, on why she, of course, is obviously lying about the power that the Biden administration has to cancel student loans. And of course, we know this because of recent reporting from The Intercept's Ken Klippenstein and Ryan Grimm. They're going to write about her decision to defend not canceling student loans, and again, lying about it to everybody listening. They said, quote, "The move may put her at odds with much of the public and the Democratic Party, but it aligns with her Democratic mega donors, Stephen and Mary Swig, the billionaire scions of the Bay Area's oldest real estate dynasty who have deep ties to the California representative." And I say, of course. Stephen Swig has also served as a treasurer for Nancy Pelosi in her fundraising efforts. That's what she does. That's Nancy Pelosi's job. That's what she's good at. She's not a master legislator. What she does is that she's really, really good at getting money from billionaires. So now, by the way, I don't know if these donors are connected to Nancy Pelosi's assertion that, we can't do anything about the eviction moratorium. I mean, we really want to do something. We wanted to do something, but we don't have the power. Biden doesn't have the power. And so you're going to have to send it to Congress. That's the same game that they're playing now. But interestingly enough, her point was destroyed by Cory Bush and progressives. The administration, the Biden administration, was again using the same excuse. Oh, we don't have the power to do that. The Biden administration doesn't have the power to extend the moratorium. Oh, no. So we're not even going to try. Well, they got embarrassed into doing it by Cory Bush. Because Cory Bush is awesome. But again, I say that and I bring that up because these donors are also real estate moguls, okay? And of course, you know, much of the real estate sector was absolutely against extending the eviction moratorium because they're actually losing money. Interesting. Is there a connection? I don't know. Anyway, so now back to student loans, back to more information about the SWIGs and their connection. Now, in November after Biden's election and amid increased pressure to cancel student loans, the SWIGs quietly circulated a memo among key Capitol Hill figures, making the dubious case that debt cancellation at the executive level is illegal. The argument in the memo gets much of its weight by virtue of the wealthy couple who produced it. And as the SWIGs are not just major funders of the progressive nonprofits, but also have significantly bankrolled Pelosi and her House Democratic caucus. The memo obtained by The Intercept was distributed to members of Congress by Freedom to Prosper, an organization founded by and for the SWIGs. The couple has in the past directly lobbied Pelosi, according to two sources with knowledge of the meetings, in which the SWIGs would suggest rhetoric or policy proposals that Pelosi would agree to adopt in some form. The source, like several others interviewed by The Intercept for the story, would only speak on a condition of anonymity, citing the SWIGs' financial sway in so-called progressive circles. Interesting. By the way, it's also noted they have also contributed millions of dollars to the Democratic Party over the years, so they have major sway. Well, of course, no. If I go to corporate media, they're going to tell me, "Oh, money has absolutely no influence on Nancy Pelosi." What are you talking about? No, they were just speaking with her, you know, because money is speech, right? Corruption? What corruption? There's no corruption here. And again, you're never going to see the story on corporate media because they'll get mad, right? How dare you? How dare you insinuate that Nancy Pelosi or any other Democratic politician who receives money from big corporations and billionaires could be corrupt? How dare you? How dare you besmirch the great Nancy Pelosi? There's more. The couple, for many years, given the maximum amount permitted in campaign contributions to Pelosi, and Stephen Swig has served, as I mentioned before, as treasurer for Pelosi's re-election campaigns since 2012. The Swigs also enjoyed extended family ties to the Pelosi's. Their niece worked for Pelosi from 2018 until March of this year, serving as a staff assistant, legislative correspondent, and policy advocate. Policy associate. The Swigs also, according to a report in Mother Jones, even own mugs with a photograph of Nancy Pelosi on them, which they said they had gotten from a nephew who worked for her. So they're pretty close, literally close. Now, the memo, getting back to that, was designated for interested parties and wasn't disseminated to the general public. It asserts that student loan debt cancellation by executive order is unlawful. No, the president cannot cancel student loan debt with a pen stroke, a boldface title reads. The memo continues, recently there has been a heightened fervor around Senators Warren and Schumer's proposal that President-elect Joe Biden could cancel student debt with a pen as opposed to legislation. Unfortunately, that cannot happen. Attorneys in Capitol Hill say the executive branch does not have the congressional authority to cancel student debt. That's what that says. What's the truth? Well, the truth is much different than what they're saying. Marshall Steinbaum, senior fellow of higher education finance at the Jane Family Institute and an economics professor at the University of Utah, told The Intercept via email, quote, the executive absolutely has the power to cancel student debt, and there's no excuse for not exercising it. A generation or more of students and workers have had their lives ruined by the failed experiment shifting the cost of higher ed onto individuals while corralling more and more students into the system. And as they point out, the idea of simply passing the executive order and letting the Supreme Court decide is hardly an abstraction. Biden just literally did that with the eviction moratorium. So they can do it. They choose not to do it. And understand, this is a game that's played. They'll say, oh, no, we can't do this unilaterally. We have to put it through Congress. Knowing that Congress is literally a dead end. You are not getting anything through Congress, especially when it comes to the filibuster, and you're not getting it through, and this is important, corporate Democrats. Corporate Democrats who receive money from the SWIGs and other large donors. So you understand how that picture, how that game is played, okay? And what this is. So getting back to the corruption, Klippenstein and Grimm continue by saying, though Pelosi says she supports student loan debt cancellation via congressional legislation, a position shared by the SWIGs, which in our Congress would never, as I mentioned, would never happen, her statement last week represents a departure from her previous silence on the issue, in which, by the way, her statement used conservative framing, saying, oh, well, you wouldn't want to pay for somebody else's, right? No, we live in a society. That's kind of what we do. We pay for Medicare, so that everybody can get health care over the age of 65. And we pay for K through 12 schooling so that everybody has a basic education. K through 12 schooling is now no longer sufficient to be able to meet the challenges of our changing and growing economy. We have to have college that is guaranteed to be free for those who want to enter, and trade schools, of course, for those who choose not to go to college, so that they can have this advanced training to be able to get into the workforce without having that albatross around their neck of this gigantic amount of debt. But of course, Pelosi's statement came as a shock to many in Congress, with some wondering if perhaps she had misspoken. She did not, as one staffer told The Intercept. But student debt relief advocates are more cynical by saying, quote, the only reason she was for it legislatively was because Steve and Mary asked her to, said one prominent member of the student debt cancellation activist community with direct knowledge of discussions between Pelosi and the SWIGs on the subject. A second source had confirmed that discussion. Political operatives familiar with the SWIGs described an often well-meaning couple who have donated to worthy causes but are rendered almost comically out of touch by their extraordinary wealth. So again, we're not talking about the Koch brothers here. We're not talking about that sort of situation. We're talking about Democratic donors who think that they're on the right side. And, when it comes to things like social issues, they generally are on the right side. But when it comes to economic issues, well, then you might as well lump them in with the Koch brothers, because on economic issues, they're deeply conservative and are only concerned about not paying more taxes. Okay, and that's the thing. So now, going back to out of touch, there's an interesting anecdote in this article as well. A source pointed to the SWIG's own account published in Salon in 2018 of how, up until then, they didn't even have any knowledge that student loans existed. The student loan debt specifically. After their daughter told them about the plight of an artist friend saddled with crushing debt. Quote, it began with a story. It wasn't an unusual one, but it was new to two of us when we first heard it from our daughter 4 years ago. It was a story of a gifted young artist, a single mother, who was forced to set aside her dreams and her gifts to work a retail job so that she could pay back her student loans. These people, before that, had no idea. Student loan debt. What's that? We're rich. We've never had to worry about student loan debt. And what's interesting about this is you can compare this to rhetoric from the Democratic Party, from members of the Democratic Party that are arguing against student loan debt cancellation. Because they do absolutely exist. I know I've argued with them quite a bit. And, they make the argument that, well, if you cancel student loan debt, you're just going to help rich people. We don't want to help rich people. No, that's a ridiculous talking point. Because here we have an example of two really rich people who had no idea about student loan debt. You know why? Because rich people don't take out student loans to go to school. They just don't. You think rich people are taking out student loans? Hell no. Why would they? You think mega donors to the Democratic Party are doing that? No. No. Do you think that that they're against canceling student loans because they just care about equality and not helping themselves or fellow rich people? Ridiculous. That is incredibly laughable. No, they don't want their taxes to go up. That's it. That's generally what the donors care about the most. These people are incredibly rich, incredibly out of touch, and of course, generally don't care. I don't think they care about this issue. I mean, how much could student loans be? $10? Come on. You could afford it. No, there are people that are suffering under six-figure debt. Go to school. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. They don't understand how much people suffer as a result of that crushing debt. And of course, the debt is a result not of them just taking out the money. They have to take out the money in the first place because of the astronomical cost of going to college in the first place. That debt is a result of defunding colleges that has happened for the last 30, 40 years. As state funding left these colleges and universities, they've shifted the costs onto the students. But then tried to balance it out with probably the worst plan, allowing first private lenders. And then, of course, when that didn't work out, then they said, well, that's okay. We'll just be the lender. The government will be the lender. And the government, of course, makes hundreds of billions of dollars off the interest a year. Come on. This is a disaster for the economy. Remember, there are people that make the minimum payment for years. Why? It's because that's all they can afford. And they barely even scratch the interest. They're not able to buy homes. They're not able to buy cars. They're not able to start families, create businesses, chase their dreams because of this gigantic stone that they're dragging behind them, that they're going to carry with them for the rest of their lives. Unless they're lucky enough to get a job on Wall Street or something that pays six figures in order to pay off their debt. And most people aren't going to get those jobs. The story is absolutely depressing in many, many different ways. And the biggest lesson that you can take from this is why money in politics and our corrupt system is the problem. That's why you have to attack that corruption and the root of that corruption, which is, again, the money. You've got to get the donors, the mega donors out. Because what they're doing right now is literally controlling the party. They have captured the government. They have captured the two parties. Literally to write policy and rhetoric for those very politicians, sometimes even scripting it out word for word. That is the definition of corruption. And that's why it has to end. Knowledge shouldn't have gatekeepers that charge admission. 100%. All right. Yeah, it was a long segment, but great reporting again by Ken Kupferstein and Ryan Grimm. Excellent. I pay $7,500 a year and $1,000 goes to principal. Yeah. The interest rates are just murder. They really, really are. And they wonder why people don't get out of the debt. Crazy. All right. I'm going to thank the person who gave the super chat here, wants to figure out who they are. Why don't I ever set these things up in advance? I have no idea. All right. Lulu Girl, thank you very much. Saying, I always enjoy your commentary. Thanks, Jeff. Well, thank you, Lulu Girl. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you so much. If you want to support the show, of course, you can send a super chat, or if you're on Twitch, you can always, of course, sub or gift a sub, or use your free Prime sub in order to help out as well. All right. Moving on, let's go to something a little bit more fun. We got Mike Pillow. That's not quite the way I wanted to know Mike Pillow. That's good stuff. All right. Let's do pillow the pillow talk. There we go. All right. Our friend Mike Pillow has been going around pimping his cyber symposium that is supposed to somehow prove that it was China that hacked our elections, and that's why, of course, Joe Biden needs to be removed and Donald Trump reinstated as president of the United States. So now, we all know that's a load of crap, but yet he continues to go around and give interviews. He had a hilarious interview with David Pakman, and now he's going to go on CNN and get obliterated. Take a look.
You sent us this on Friday.
Yeah.
What is this?
That's just one piece of 1.2 billion lines of data from the election. Okay. Within that will be timestamps of when it happened. There'll be flips in there.
So we sent this to our own experts. Mm-hmm. He said that it doesn't show any specific actions of any kind, election related or not. And it's proof of nothing.
Okay, so he said that's nothing, huh? Well, he's wrong. Then you didn't hire a cyber expert.
We didn't consult just one cyber expert. We consulted 9 top election security experts who told us Lindell's screenshots were extremely rudimentary metadata and completely ridiculous. We also reached all 15 officials from the 15 counties where Lindell says, without any proof, votes were hacked and switched. Lindell mentions some of the counties in his videos and lists them out in his counter lawsuit against Dominion Voting. They are counties that use paper ballots counted by systems not connected to the internet. Every one of them told CNN there is no evidence they were hacked by anyone.
Whoops. Oh, you didn't hire a cybersecurity expert. You didn't talk to them. We talked to, you're right, we didn't talk to 1. We talked to 9. Come on, man. Oh, that's great. And so, look, here's the thing. And it was summarized at the end of the segment quite nicely. It was a pretty long video. I couldn't show you the whole thing. But basically, they said that no matter what evidence you have to refute the pillow guy, he's going to reject it. Why? It's because, well, it's a conspiracy. It's the grand conspiracy. And only Mike Pillow and Donald Trump know the real truth. Yes. And they curl up with the truth every night, like a nice warm blanket and a little pillow. Yes. But again, that to them, that little truth that they've created in their own little bubble is comforting. And they don't want to go outside that bubble. And when you challenge them with the facts and the actual reality of what happened, that there was no Chinese, you can't even, there's no Chinese hacking because there's no evidence of Chinese hacking, for one, and all of the vote totals from the machines and the backup paper ballots matched. No evidence. No evidence at all. But you don't need evidence. You don't need it. And so here's the thing. This is, as I mentioned before, this is a cult. Mike Pillow is high priest of the cult, who's literally interpreting the sacred wisdom of Donald Trump and trying to make it into reality. If you still believe this conspiracy after what, 10 months? 10 months? No, there's no hope for you. There's no hope for you at all. This is all, the whole thing is just more cope and seethe. The rest of us, while the rest of us, of course, move on with our lives. Former crack addict. Evidence is for losers. Sad baby. Oh my God. All right. Again, with the terrible, I'm putting in the wrong things as the sidebars here today. With my issue on that. Might as well check those ahead. Yep. Screwed up on that one too. Gonna fix it. Won't fix it. There we go. All right. We all know the truth. Trump lost big time, even though the Republicans cheated with voter suppression. True. Mike Lindell is just plainly crazy. There was no hacking in the election. Trump just lost, period. Also, again, true. An insidious grift at minimum. At minimum. Oh. Yeah, I mean, again, Lindell, I think, is a true believer. He actually believes this thing, this stuff. And, you know, I think so much of him is wrapped up in it now. Like, he staked his entire company, his reputation, millions of dollars, doing these ridiculous conspiracy videos. Like, he's wrapped up. He's in it too deep. He's in too deep. All right. Anyway, let's go to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Speaking of people that are in deep, here we go. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is celebrating the fact that Alabama is literally one of the worst states when it comes to the number of Americans who are not vaccinated against COVID-19, and suggested that Alabamians should shoot people who come to their door to discuss the merits of getting the vaccine. This is from a video that was obtained, actually, that was taped by a Pacman viewer. So it was aired on David Pacman's show. Let's take a look.
One more thing on that, you lucky people here in Alabama might get a knock on your door because I hear Alabama might be one of the most unvaccinated states in the nation. Well, Joe Biden wants to come talk to you guys. He's going to be sending one of his police state friends to your front door to knock on the door, take down your name, your address, your family members' names, your phone numbers, your cell phone numbers, probably ask for your social security number, and whether you've taken the vaccine or not. Yeah, well, what they don't know is in the South, we all love our Second Amendment rights. And we're not real big on strangers showing up on our front door, are we? They might not like the welcome they get.
Dumb. So dumb. You realize they're the government. They already have yours. The government already has your personal information. The government already has your social security number. Moron. Look, it's the same kind of people that are like, get your government hands off my Medicare. The Medicare is the government, and this is coming from somebody who literally works and gets paid for by the government. Irony is dead. Look, irony is not just dead. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene dug it up out of its grave, shot it, stabbed it, and then launched it into the sun on Jeff Bezos' dick rocket. Okay, that's what happened here. Okay. Psycho. Psycho. Hey, you know who else in the government comes to your door? Census workers. Now, census workers, now what's interesting about the census is that, look, that determines how much funding gets sent to your district. So you want to make sure to count as many people as you can, especially if, like, for example, if you're in a Republican district, well, you want to count as many Republicans as you can to make sure that that district stays Republican. Well, I guess if all the Republicans in Alabama decide that they don't want government workers coming to their door, well, okay, well, go ahead with that, and then we'll just count the Democrats. Ridiculous, right? Just ridiculous. These people are dumb. Not only that, but you know another government worker that comes to your door? The mailman. So stupid. Psychos. Now look, what she was talking about when it comes to the vaccine, by the way, is that this is a part of a program that is a door-to-door outreach, right? So yes, somebody does come to your door and says, hey, here are the merits of getting a vaccine. You know, COVID-19 is, of course, dangerous. And so we're going to explain if you have any questions about getting the vaccine or why you should vaccinate. Look, considering how COVID-19, the Delta variant, is actually the vast majority of Americans who are getting COVID-19 are unvaccinated, this seems like a sensible approach to do some outreach. All right? This makes sense, right? It's basically warning people. I'm going to make a pretty terrible, I think, metaphor here. But think about it like somebody coming to your house and saying, hey, there's a flood that's going to happen. You're going to get flooded out, so you might want to evacuate. And these people are like, fuck you. My freedom to drown. America. Now, to further expand on that pretty terrible metaphor, you've got TV channels that are saying, you know what? It's patriotic to drown. I mean, it's your choice as an American to drown. Freedom. Freedom. Again, ridiculous comparison, but ridiculous metaphor, but whatever. So here's the thing. This is not about the science. I know conservatives are like, oh, untested science, blah, 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 right? And then, of course, they get into unhinged conspiracies about, like, Mark of the Beast, you know, and microchips. Shut up. You're not important to microchip, okay? You're not important enough. You think they're going to waste that money on you? Honestly. But, again, here's the thing. This has become political. Vaccines, COVID-19, masks, all of this stuff has become a ridiculous virtue signal. Not wearing a mask, not getting vaccinated, or at least getting vaccinated and then saying, oh, no, I'm totally not vaccinated. Are you kidding me? I'd never put the devil's juice in my arm. Please give me vaccine. Please put it in here, right in my vein. You know, a lot of them are doing that, right? You know, a lot of the people in, not in Congress, but in Fox News, actually, yes, in Congress too, but Fox News, you literally have to be vaccinated to get in the building. And you have to have a vaccine passport. And yet a lot of these same people are like, oh, vaccine's bad. I mean, there's a lot of questions about these vaccines. I'm just asking questions. Give me that vaccine, girl. Put it in my arm. Put it right there. Love it. It's ridiculous, but that's how crazy the right has become. They think that it's a purity test, a virtue signal. This isn't about health. It's not about, again, it's not about the science. It's about declaring your conservative credentials by advertising the fact that you're a walking petri dish. That's it. You're not owning the libs. You're owning yourself. And by the way, you're probably owning your family too. It's ridiculous. I mean, look, I keep going over these stories because I think it's important to tell these stories. All right. Recently, a father of 5, 39-year-old Mike O'Freedy, he died after getting COVID-19. Well, the last text message he sent to his wife was, I should have gotten the damn vaccine. Yeah, you should have. 45-year-old Travis Campbell, I talked about him yesterday. He was been filming his experience on a Facebook Live in the hospital dealing with COVID-19. Here's what he said. I messed up big time, guys. I didn't get the vaccine. That's okay. I made a mistake. I admit it. And I'm taking responsibility now. So please, for the love of God, if you really want to have a chance, don't fall for the TV rhetoric and social media. Just protect yourself. That rhetoric comes from people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, people on Newsmax, Brian Kilmeade, Fox News. It comes from Facebook memes, Alex Jones, InfoWars, and all the bad faith actors. People who are most likely vaccinated, by the way, too. Again, let's take Marjorie Taylor Greene. I would bet that she is vaccinated. Oh yeah, there's no way she could be traveling around so much and have not picked up the virus already. Come on. But what she's doing, as I said, is encouraging and celebrating ignorance. And the hogs, you saw them lapping it up. Woo! We're in a cesspit of disease. Yeah! America! No, this is not something that I would celebrate. But again, I have a functional brain, and apparently people like Marjorie Taylor Greene do not. Fuck me. So frustrating. I don't like Pelosi, but receiving donations from corporations and PACs doesn't make you a bad person or a bad candidate. No, look, does it make you a bad person? It depends on what you do. If you receive money from PACs, because look, Nina Turner got money from PACs, right? Nina Turner got money from Rebellion PAC. What makes it bad is when you take the money and then you do the things that the people giving you the money tell you to do. And, you know, it's bad when you do those things that are against the majority of what your voters actually want. Voters overwhelmingly want universal health care, things like Medicare for all. People want student loan debt cancellation. She is paid, people like that are paid to not do those things by those big donors. So it matters what you do when you get that money, because in reality, that's who you end up serving. If you serve those interests, you take money from those interests and you serve those interests, then yeah, that's bad. That is legal bribery, by the way. And of course, they're not just giving money because, so when you and I give money, for example, we expect a return on investment, right? That return being, you do the policies, we support you, and you, when you get into power, you enact the policies that we want, right? It works the same way with these billionaires and PACs, except that their interests don't align with the rest of us. Their interests align with making sure to keep their taxes low, making sure to deregulate their corporations and all of that, or their companies, and to give them special access and favors. That's really the difference. That's why we have to get that big money out of politics. Because really, honestly, that's why we should move to a system of funding elections that's public financing of elections. That way, they get money from all of us, and then they serve all of us. They're supposed to. PAC should be transparent. PAC shouldn't exist. That's what I think. Whenever you get big money involved, it never works out well. All right, anyway. Go to the Karens. Not just repeal Citizens United. We could definitely start there, but you also have to get rid of the things that, the two decisions that underpinned Citizens United. And then, of course, is Bilotti versus First Bank. I always forget the other one. Buckley Vallejo. Money is speech and corporations are people. Money is not speech. Corporations are absolutely not people. We shouldn't be treating them as such. Anyway. Karens. Do some Karens. A woman was filmed during a recent school board meeting in North Carolina screaming for a revote after they approved a new mask mandate. Here's that video.
I am not leaving until you do a revote for the people, by the people, and of the people. Now!
Yes. All right, so there it was. There it is. There it is. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Just saying. I had to say it. Also, nice pajama pants. Fashion. I see you're a woman of culture as well. Nonsense points, points aside, of course. Look, there's some serious stuff about this, obviously. And there's a reason you have these school boards that are putting in these mask mandates for kids. The Delta variant right now is surging across the unvaccinated. And as a result of that, of course, you have a lot of these states and localities that are re-implementing mask mandates. Now, school's about to start in the next couple of weeks, and a lot of kids are now at risk. And look, there's a lot of concern. In fact, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, COVID-19 cases involving children jumped 86% in 1 week. This isn't a joke. COVID-19, the Delta variant, is much more infectious, much more contagious than the other versions, than the other strains. And kids right now under 12 cannot get vaccinated. Well, what else are you going to have them do other than wear masks in schools? And that's what they're doing. So now I have more data on this. Now, the Academy also said that kids had made up 19% of overall new cases in the country. That might not sound like a lot, but again, school's about to start. That's going to be a pretty large jump. I think we're going to see it go even further. And while it is rare for children to get really, really ill and still rare for them to die, the Delta variant does pose more significant risk. In fact, I'm going to go here to Baptist Health pediatrician Dr. Jai Gilliam saying this, quote, "Kids have died of COVID-19. In general, most children will do well with this coronavirus, but what we're seeing is that early on in the beginning, kids weren't affected as much as we thought they were." Okay, so there's that, right? So that's the good news. Well, I mean, their kids are still not as affected as the rest of us, but, and here comes the but, Gillum says the Delta variant is far more contagious and kids are getting sicker and more quickly than before. Turns out kids are actually getting sick and dying from it. So one death is too much. If it's your child, it's definitely going to hit home. So kids can get sick from coronavirus and kids can die from this. So we want to treat this virus with respect. Now, of course, asked, how would you protect them? For one, well, get your vaccine. You get your vaccine. Okay, so you don't bring it home to the kids. At least until, of course, kids are authorized to get the vaccine as well, which they are not yet. But the other question is of how you protect them. Well, answered that question by saying, we protect kids by getting vaccines and wearing masks and having them wear masks as well. So this is apparently something this woman is not in favor of. Judging by her shirt, unmask the kids. And so not a good position, not a safe position. And it is definitely something to be concerned about, the level of vitriol that is happening in a lot of these local areas that are making these decisions. Thankfully, the school board did not listen in that particular county, but you see a lot of this happen. You see a lot of this rhetoric or these people that echo this rhetoric from conservative media that says, oh, the Tucker Carlson, for example, that said, if you see your kids in a mask, call the police, harass them, harass the parents. They should be taken away by the state because that's a form of child abuse. That's the kind of media that these people, these Karens, are consuming. And it is incredibly dangerous. So let's get to the Twitter dunks. Okay. Let's have a little fun. Nicholas Bohack says, oh, surprise, surprise. She doesn't accept the outcome of a vote and is stomping your feet until she gets her way. Haven't seen a lot of that lately or anything. She did say, I'm going to stay here until you revote. I wonder if she's still there or if she went home. Racer X says, they need to stop watching state TV, Tucker mainly. There are many freedoms in this country. They don't have the right to spread the virus to other people who could subsequently die. You have to obey the speed limit. You have to wear a seatbelt. This isn't complicated. Well, look, I know conservatives who would argue against seatbelts. We've all seen them. I'm sure I've personally had conversations with conservatives that are like, no, it's my right to fly through a windshield. Oh, is it? Yeah, it's my right as an American. My body, my right to smash through a windshield onto the pavement. Okay, great. Ms. Kopp says, JFC, I wore a mandatory uniform in school. Hated it. I survived because clothes aren't deadly. Stupidity is. Get over this crap already. Nobel Prize in Sarcasm says, that's not how voting works. KLP says, I'm not leaving until democracy means I win always. Another person says, this chocoholic Brit, I live in Buncombe County, which is where this happened, by the way. These selfish people do not represent me or the majority of our residents. Masks will save lives and protect kids and their families, for fuck's sake. Another person added, I grew up 45 minutes down the mountain. If you aren't from North Carolina, please realize this does not represent Buncombe County, one of the most progressive areas in the state with a lot of culture and quite good schools. So very important that you don't write off everybody in those areas. Look, I know a lot of progressives tend to do that, tend to write off the South as well, based on one or two people or stereotypes, whatever. No, there are progressive pockets all over the country, and people doing the right thing all over. So I just, want to urge everybody not to completely stereotype everybody. As Trudy Pudlani says, they're loud and angry, but they're not the majority. Well, there you go. I think that's important to remember. The majority of Americans, 68% have had at least one dose of the vaccine. 87% of Democrats, 63% of independents have received at least one dose. 49% of Republicans have. And there's actually a split in the Republican Party between the anti-vaxxers and the crazies and the people who don't want to die. So understand that my point is the anti-maskers and anti-vaxxers are still a minority of the country. Now, a harmful minority, for sure, preventing us from, of course, being able to really put this virus behind us the way that we wanted to, in the time frame that we wanted to, and that's why it continues to drag on and on and on, and, here we go, second wave, third wave, fifth wave, whatever. It keeps coming back. No, it doesn't keep coming back, because it never left, because it hadn't had the opportunity to leave. Look, we got rid of polio by getting as many people vaccinated as possible. And yes, sometimes that involved vaccine mandates. But, now, in these days, well, of course, you have a lot of people that are divided. It's a very divisive issue, talking about, vaccine mandates and even mask mandates, which have riled up a third of the country into a frothing rage, like a lot of these people. But again, they're still the minority of the country. The rest of us do realize the importance of masks and the importance of getting vaccinated. And, you know, I think that most of us are willing to do what we need to do to be able to protect ourselves and to protect each other. Most of us are not screaming Karens. Most of us are over their bullshit. We're ready to do what we have to do to try to get back to our lives, despite the Karens who, like this lady, might still be sitting in that building screaming. We can only hope, right? Can only hope. I do not have time for the Blizzard story, unfortunately. That's too long of a story. I'm going to save that for Monday. So it's going to be salient. A great story about labor, of course. Let's see. Let's go here. Nobody complains about public school vaccines, though. What the fuck? Veggie Godzilla, that's a great point. You're right. You have to you have literal vaccine passports to get into school. You have to have your vaccine records. Not only that, but in a lot of places, you have to use that to travel. You have to show proof of vaccination. But no, those other vaccines are okay. But this one bad. Since when? Come on. No, that's a really good point. He stomps her feet and says, "Do what I say." Yeah, isn't it weird how they're always like, "Oh no, do what I say. Do what I say." It's all about trying to, you know, trying to get people to do what they want instead of asking them to do the right thing. Gotta have special ID to fly soon, real ID. Actually, yeah, look, I can't, right now, I remember getting my license renewed last year, and I was like, all right, just, you know, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in the DMV. Okay, I had to come here, and they're like, well, do you want to pay extra to fly? I was like, I don't have extra. How much extra? And I forget how much they were going to charge me, and I was like, no, not interested. Not interested. Now I'm thinking about, maybe I should have. Maybe I should have. I don't know. I would have to go back and pay to get, you know, the pictures retaken. And at the time, I didn't have the vaccine, so I really did not want to go back and you know, pay, not only pay that, but also go back into the building, you know, without having a vaccine. And I was just like, no, I'm not interested. Now that I'm vaccinated fully, I guess I'd go back, but I still really don't want to go to the DMV or Secretary of State, whatever. Do I have a passport? I do not. I've never left the country. So again, I would have to go back, and I don't do a lot of travel. I don't do a lot of flying, so it wasn't really as like a super priority. And so yeah. But if I ever do, you know, plan on it, then I'll definitely have to go back and get that done. So, what do you do, right? What do you do? All right. Try to have a good weekend, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you for, like I said, the super chats. Thank you for the new follows on Twitch, of course. Lee Spanner, we're Bane's CEO. Nice. Dragon Morgan Muffle. Name. But thank you for the follows on Twitch. Really appreciate it. We're going to raid into somebody else here. Let's do a raid into... Fuck it, let's do a Surfy raid here today. All right, so we're raiding into the Surfs, everybody. All 37 of you. Hopefully you stay around. The Surfs are base. Great channel. Great lefty content creator. Fun clown on the internet as well, but one of the good ones. So stay there or go, you know, whatever. Go there, support his channel, all that stuff. And everybody else have a great weekend. See you all on Monday. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Night, everybody. See you later.
Amazing. Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Oh no!
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.